Taneytown Planning Commission, please come to order. I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening. Would you please stand to the pledge of the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands.
The records reflect the members that are here this evening. We expect Bill, maybe. Should have received the draft minutes of February 24th, 2025.
Motion that we approve the minutes from February 24th.
None.
Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion, second. Opposed, nay. Carried. Thank you. Delegation and action items. EVAP Code, third amended site plan, presentation of red line monument site plan, sign change, sorry. Jim, you want to?
So, sure. In your packet, Daryl had included this. It's kind of a detail of the corner of the property right at the intersection of FSK Highway and Allendale Lane. And the monument sign area on the corner there is going to be changing. So it doesn't have a big impact on the overall site plan, but it certainly is going to look different than what was in your drawings that you approved. So while it is being done as a red line change, meaning it doesn't need your reapproval, we wanted to make sure that you were aware of the change, because it is going to look different than the sign that was in the original plans. So the idea is really just to accentuate the idea that this is the world headquarters, and there's going to be panels underneath the label of World Headquarters and Research Center that feature images related to what they manufacture at the site. So they kind of wanted to make it a little, I don't know, introduction to what they do on the site. So again, no approval necessary since it's being redlined, just really for your information. So it is going to look different, but I think it's going to be a nice feature to the site.
Comments?
A nice feature in general. I mean, it's with all the glass and this new addition they're putting on, it kind of just elevates the whole look of the property and Taneytown in general. So
I was curious as to how tall it was. I couldn't really read so I guess if this is to scale, I guess that's good.
well, it sits down like at the curb level is the bottom at the street, because there's a hillside there now. So
Yeah.
essentially, it's like the top of the sign, probably about the top of the current bank.
I couldn't read the numbers. I was just curious.
Yeah.
All right.
And for signs where there are like individual letters mounted on a background, we can count how many square inches each letter is. We don't necessarily have to count the whole rectangle. So I'm sure Daryl has already evaluated the overall square footage. So.
Forward.
I like it.
Next item, 3300 Harney Road annexation. Presentation of plaque drawing and bounds discussion. Again, you want to start us off on?
I don't see that Daryl has hard copies of that in your packet.
I think we do have a drawing on it.
Yeah,
Do you?
We
Okay. Was it
do
in there?
have it.
Okay, I must have flipped past it. So our annexation packet has gone to Carroll County. They require 60 days to receive the packet of information 60 days before the public hearing. So the hearing is going to be scheduled for June, the June council meeting.
Jim, just for clarification, it's 3300 Harney Road. Are we talking about the property where the house is, or are we talking about that strip of land between the house
So
property
it
and
is,
schools?
right. So it is the house and the surrounding lot. It is also a 25-foot strip that lies between that lot and the Sewell property, that until things were surveyed, the assumption was that 3300 was contiguous to Sewell. But there's actually a 25-foot strip between Sewell and this property that the owner of the Roll the Dice property that used to be the Harner Farm or Sauble Farm, depending on how far back you want to go, it is in agreement with annexing. And so at this point, the owner at 3300 has signed the annexation agreement. That's irrevocable, and the owner of Roll the Dice has signed a consent to annex for that 25-foot strip, and also a narrow strip between the lot of 3300 and the existing county right-of-way for Harney Road. So the lot actually set back, didn't touch the right-of-way or the Sewell property. So there's a little sliver of what's now Roll the Dice property that's kind of like an L shape on the front and I'll say northwest side of the property. So that little L strip is coming in as well.
At the drawing, his driveway entrance is on part of that strip. So
Yes.
is there going to be some type of easement, or how is that, or will that be discussed during a public hearing or something?
So that's really not pertinent to the annexation, as long as the land area comes in. We understand that the little thin strip between Harney Road and the existing right-of-way is intended to be deeded to the county commissioners, but that doesn't really matter for the annexation. We just need to make sure that the land area is contiguous and that we're, describing it properly for the annexation. So the driveway being on the Roll the Dice property is really something to work out between the two property owners. And if there is an existing easement or something, I don't think it's recorded in the land records. That doesn't mean there might not have been some agreement written up years ago that fell by the wayside, but that's really for the two owners to work out.
Yeah,
Do I have any comments?
the 10-foot strip you said was intended to be deeded to the county at some point. Should that now then be, is there some mechanism for that to be deeded to the city? If that's going to be eventually a city sidewalk, I assume that's for a sidewalk easement?
We expect that when the Sewell property develops, that we'll be asked to accept Harney Road as a city road. So if that is deeded to the county as part of that road right-of-way, eventually it will come to the city. So in the meantime, we don't really want to own an isolated little strip out there.
Comments from the floor? Next item, the Hitchman replacement sign and electronic message board discussion. Discussion, you want to talk
Right,
about
so
it?
that's was also in your packet.
Yep.
Daryl included some images. The sign's going to be actually scaled down a bit from the existing sign, and representatives from the Hitchman are here to answer any questions, or if you gentlemen would like to do an overview, come on up to the microphone, please.
Guys would like anything? Brought some.
Different from what we have in front of us?
Just big.
Just
I don't
big?
think so.
This-
We're okay.
These are good. I think.
Sounds good.
I
We're
got
good.
it.
Everyone else good?
I only have, well,
Okay.
I can't read one dimension there, so, yeah,
Like this one?
I'll take it. Thank you.
All right, go ahead.
All
Please state your name and,
Yep. Good evening. Adam Pino here from the Hitchman down the street, 115 York Street. We had a sign loss. The panels flew out of our sign and some damage on a windstorm in late December. So it was looking to upgrade. It's a 25-year-old sign, so I think it's time. And looking to upgrade to a message board, something that displays more of what we actually do, more than just trailers. A lot of people come in and day out and say, we didn't realize you guys have all this stuff, so hoping to help that out a little bit and upgrade the sign. So yeah, with the, I guess the current code, our existing sign dimensions, we shrunk it down to the 40 square foot to meet the current regulations and codes. So decreased it a little bit in size, and
So the height, 13 foot 6 inches, is that what the existing sign is?
that's the, yes.
It's that same, yeah.
Since it's going back in the same frame you've got now, you're not
Yeah,
gonna,
same poles, same
Well, same.
posts.
But the frame's getting
Just,
smaller.
it'll be, yeah, it'll be a different box will be
Right.
changed,
But the top will stay the same.
same structure. Yeah, same location.
Jim, any comments?
No, I know there's been, I'm not sure if you've already submitted the actual sign permit application to Daryl or not, but if not, that'll be the next step, assuming the planning commission agrees with the message board portion of it. And that's really the aspect that we're here for tonight. Otherwise, it would just be a regular old sign that Daryl would approve administratively. It's just the message board component that requires it go before you guys.
We do not need a motion.
I think we do, because I think the ordinance says that it has to be approved by the planning commission, so I assume we have to,
Approve?
you know how it reads?
I didn't read, I
It
just,
does, yes.
then we need this-
Approval by the planning commission.
Okay.
So
So
we
a
need
motion and vote
on
would
that.
be in order.
I move that we approve the electronic message board sign requested by the Hitchman.
I'll second it.
Discussion? Favor of a motion for approval of the message board sign for the Hitchman, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Approved, nay. Carried. Thank you, folks.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Yeah. Have a good evening.
Two. Stay dry.
Next item on the agenda is the Taneytown Volunteer Fire Company electronic message board discussion. In that particular case, the sign we have in front of our building now is beyond repair, and we submitted already for a request for a permit to replace it. And in front of you, you should have a picture of it. Here it is, thank you.
Just a new sign going back in the same frame?
Not exactly. The brickwork, as you look at it, the brickwork on the right-hand side next to the building will remain. Part of the brickwork on the left-hand side will be removed so that we can fit the sign, new sign, within the framework. The way it shows here, it's like a sandwich, and that's
Make a motion, we approve the sign for the fire company.
second it.
I'll second it.
Chris will second that. Right?
Yep.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion of approving the message replacement sign for the Taneytown Volunteer Fire Company signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried. Thank you. Storage today.
The zoning administrator advises me that all the applicable comment letters have been addressed and approval letters issued for the preliminary plan phase. So just seeking preliminary site plan approval that will enable them to reapply for their various environmental permits that have lapsed since it's taken so long to get through the process.
As I went through all those questions, I forget how many it was, have they all been,
That's my understanding, that they've all been addressed.
I noticed on the drawing, preliminary drawing, all the items that they have lines drawn through are still here. That was one of the items that they asked, the county asked to have removed. If it doesn't pertain to it, it shouldn't show on the drawing.
Can you give me an example of one of those, since I'm a little out of the loop?
I guess it's on page 2. you look at all the comments, starting where building, where there's lines drawn through all those items. I guess I have a question about approving a drawing. The item's still showing on the drawing. You guys see what I'm referring to?
Oh, yeah, yeah, but I've approved drawings both ways at my job, so some with lines, some without, so I didn't take that as being a problem.
Well, if I was the one to have to sign these drawings,
This is
I would
preliminary,
have-
it's not final.
and I am, I would hesitate on signing them.
I'm not opposed to that.
So at the preliminary plan stage, well, we are going to be asking for a signature, so.
And right. So I think they need to correct, according to the comments from the county, and resubmit it at a later date. I had a question about the parking, the ADA parking. I only noticed one parking space, the ADA, but I think the county required an additional parking, regular parking space.
I thought they were okay with that.
See that, that's item number 5 on the list dated March the 3rd. And really have any question about the other problem, other than
You have this paper, Jim?
if it was submitted, I have it.
So it says, the above-mentioned site plan complies with the requirements of the Maryland Accessibility Code.
That's saying that the ADA space meets requirements, but that doesn't speak to whether or not there needed to be an additional non-ADA space.
That's what number 5 states. In site plan note number 8 on the preliminary site plan sheet, it is noted 1 regular parking space and 1 ADA space. However, the total space account is 1. It needs to be corrected.
Yep.
There were just little items as you went through that I couldn't find on the drawings as being corrected.
I'm fine. I mean, yeah, I missed that. I'm fine with that if you want to.
Yeah. Comments, Jim?
Page 1 does show total parking spaces provided, 2 spaces on the first page of the plan set, so it looks like that was corrected.
Okay.
Yeah,
What's the,
it does correct that then, because they do have 2 spaces, and
Yeah.
it's been noted as 2 spaces, so. But still, it doesn't, that strike, it still doesn't say about the strike-through stuff, so if
Right.
you're still standing on that.
that was almost a whole page of strikeouts, strike items through there, so. Or some type of motion,
Is there more beyond the strikeout issue?
no, not really, I don't think.
Could we direct them to delete the strikeout prior to the signature copy?
I don't like to do continuously,
Okay.
just because it puts us in a bind down the road.
Okay.
I mean, we past.
Okay.
If they
That's
had-
my opinion.
If they've had clear direction to do it and they haven't done it, then they need to do it. I would agree, absolutely with that.
So we're okay with the parking spaces,
Yeah, if it's on here.
strike
They
through?
just need to make sure they make comments and correct every item on that letter of March the 5th. Or put that in some time before a motion, or just, we don't want to approve it. Jim, what's the,
Well, if...
I think we're just
if-
tabling
if-
this till
If
they-
you're, right, if the commission's not ready to do preliminary plan approval or do a contingent approval, then we can just direct the developer to make the changes and resubmit it for next meeting.
Got the consent of everyone? Okay,
So, already consensus to resubmit, correct and resubmit.
thank you.
Right?
Ordinance and agreement. We did have something, didn't we?
Stormwater management.
Looked like.
So Daryl did include in your packet stormwater management ordinance that has been introduced and will be
Yeah.
up for approval by the mayor and council next month. This is not a zoning ordinance specifically, so it does not need the planning commission's approval. This is really more informational, but the gist of it is that we are going to be deleting our existing stormwater management code and adopting Carroll County's code.
Carroll County already does the inspection though, right?
So they do a lot of stormwater-related work for the city. We are on a joint national pollutant elimination, discharge elimination system permit, NPDES permit, that the county does the lion's share of the work administratively for it, and then each municipality participates in the permit, and also we pay a share of certain county staff people that support the permit. So we're already pretty embedded with county stormwater processes, and this basically takes us from being the only municipality that has our own stormwater ordinance and brings us into the fold with everybody else. So hopefully there will be a little less confusion on developers, engineers side of things, because they're used to, Carroll County actually has a stormwater supplement that was approved by the Department of the Environment that the city never adopted. So there were practices eligible elsewhere in the county that engineers are familiar with, and they can't utilize them in the city. Not that they all necessarily would work in the city because of our soil types, but basically this just brings us in alignment with everybody else around us. And for us, cost-wise, it's kind of a net zero because our reviews are done by CDM Smith, the city's consultant engineer, and the costs for those reviews are passed on to the developer. So the developer now, instead of paying us to pay CDM Smith, they will just be paying the county for that stormwater management review. And, you know, that, depending on the specifics of the project, that may end up being more or less than they might pay the city. It all depends upon the project itself.
Nope, no comments.
And the county will be doing a 3-year, we have to inspect all the stormwater facilities in the city once every 3 years. So we currently pay CDM Smith to accompany a public works employee around to all the stormwater facilities, take pictures and everything, and then CDM Smith writes up a big report about it. So that will fall on the county going forward. To them, it's kind of a drop in the bucket when you think of how many stormwater facilities they have compared to how many we have here in the city, but they are able to absorb that for us.
Tiffany, you have any comments on that?
Hey, Jim, just as a question, does this cover stormwater management facilities that are on city property, or is this any stormwater management facility within the city limits?
Any new stormwater management facility.
Okay, I guess Daryl's report. Do you want to make any comments, or did he leave anything? Gave us what we had before us for this evening.
I can do my best to field questions, but otherwise you have his written report. I participated in a number of the meetings that he listed there, so I can probably speak to it if there are questions, but otherwise I'd be happy to just let his written report stand.
Curious why the outside grow project got canceled. Did they give any reason for that, or
Excuse me, I didn't hear.
outside grow project?
The Curaleaf.
Maryland
Curaleaf.
Compassionate Care and
Oh,
Wellness.
okay.
That says it.
Yeah, I'm curious about that also.
I don't know that they provided a specific explanation, but when the project was initially pitched, the reason the outdoor grow was considered was because of the speed with which they thought they could get product in the ground. And I suppose that missing the spring growing season probably influenced their decision. But that's my assumption,
Yeah,
not,
I was just, yeah, just curious.
Taxes aren't gonna help any either.
Okay. Okay, moving on to the action items. 20 supply, I had a comment here from county note. I can't, as soon as I find my county note. Does anybody have any comments about any of the items there?
No comments from me.
It looks like they have just a bunch of notes here to go back and correct the drawings, one thing to another, and
Oh, yeah, that's
take
it.
some stuff off of drawings and put stuff on drawings.
Okay, that's all I had on that.
Without the drawings, we can't
Right, yeah, it was kind of hard to
have
figure
the
that out.
drawings, so.
Same thing with Garnett Ridge. I had a lot of, or evidently there was a lot of comments from the county about the properties that's connected to that.
so I am aware that there's a state highway reviewers required that the deceleration lane be extended from what was originally proposed. And this may be a similar situation to what the city's encountered where they've introduced new reviewers mid-project. But at any rate, they've had to go on to the adjacent property to the east to extend the deceleration lane. They also have been working with FlowServe on the opposite side for a utility easement for that sewer force main and the water main. As I think everybody's aware, there's a fiber optic line that runs on the north side of 140, and I suspect they're trying to avoid any possible interference with that fiber optic line. And also, by crossing the street, they're dealing with basically one property owner for the whole length of their line until they cross back over, instead of having to get multiple easements with different property owners.
Where's the Sherman property? Which one's that?
That's the one immediately to the east, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Anything else for anyone else? Construction phases. Have any comments?
I thought sheets was getting taken care of, now it's going off.
Darrell advised that the stormwater agreement has been received. At this point, because he has spoken with the city engineer and city attorney about the project again, so now he's waiting to see if we had any billable time for either of those before he completely closes it out. So we need to wait for the next round of legal and engineering invoices. But we do have the stormwater agreement. That's what we've been waiting years for.
Since we're turning that over to the county, shouldn't the county be handling that?
Well, going forward, that'll be one less thing on our checklist.
In VAPCO, we talked about George's, I don't know what's going on there, Meade Crossing, VAPCO, Recovery 180. Still waiting on state?
I believe that the Mylars have been signed. Chairman Parker, do you recall putting ink
Yeah,
to
I think
those? So they are, that would mean that we finally gotten the dedication to State Highway taken care of appropriately for those plats to be signed. I think those are the ones that I actually ran to the county for Darrell last Wednesday, so I think they're in the process of being recorded.
parking lot, anything going on with the parking lot?
They're using it.
What about the second? Wasn't there a second parking lot going in there?
So
Doing
the
construction of it.
The existing Evapco parking lot is still an open construction project. I haven't heard much news other
Okay.
than some general commentary about how it's already being used, which I think has ruffled some feathers here and there, but
Right, because what they've done, they just put some millings down where the houses used to be, and then they're all parking on it without it actually being constructed.
right. So
Yes, after construction is finished, I imagine they'll go back, well, they'll have to, they can't get you know until.
Right. And I don't know if their intent is to await completion of the heavy construction of the office expansion before they move ahead with the actual blacktopping and everything of that.
Yeah, because I think they're
lot
using
that
it for a
they've been
laydown
using
area
is kind of
for the construction on the office addition.
So I can't really speak to the intention there or the timing of it. But I can ask Daryl to follow up and send an email out to everybody.
Or, is there anything else? If not, before I go to legal, this tally sheet we got here about the Taneytown Athletic Association registration data. If I'm right, what I'm reading here, I'm impressed that there's over 1,400 kids enrolled in athletics in Taneytown.
I couldn't remember why we asked this.
I couldn't remember either, but you know, it'd be something to see that 1,400 some kids being able to vote.
I
A
think
lot of
that-
those kids are not city residents, but
Right, I was gonna say, I
yeah.
think a lot of outside people participate in their programs.
Well, it says from Meadowbrook and Meads Crossing, and it gives a breakdown pretty much.
Yeah, but that's just a small percentage of the overall.
Yeah.
I
But I
think
think
the
that's good.
nexus to the planning commission was the idea of trying to figure out, is there a way that we can anticipate the impact on the park system as we approve new development? So, do we see that 80% of households enroll kids in the athletic programs?
I remember
or-
that being a question when we were looking at.
I think that was,
grants.
I think
It
that was the reasoning behind asking for the figures for the
I
enrollment.
think I even asked.
Well, I think it's very impressive.
Yeah.
There's numbers.
And, and it speaks to, one, it speaks to how good our parks are, but two, how active the programs are and how much they need the additional space that they're trying to create, so.
There's a lot of interest in our parks.
I just want to commend all the volunteers there to build that small town feel. That's what I'm saying.
All right. Anything else? All right. Let's go to legal report. Jay, you available?
Yep. Good evening, everyone. How are you all doing?
We're fine, Jay.
How are you?
Great. This month has been a follow-up as far as our discussions from last month regarding Mountain Brook. You remember we had quite a frank discussion about Mountain Brook and the developer's belief and the status of our discussions of who was paying for what. And so based on that, we took the matter to the city council, and the city council in a closed session basically discussed all the options available and directed the staff to come up with some legislation that would require developments to have two entrances. I'm simplifying it, but you get the idea, two connections. Most of the developments in town have that. Carroll Vista, Creekside, Beach Crossing, they all have two. And I think that was basically an agreement that was worked out with the developer and the design. But in the event a developer would not want to do it voluntarily, we wanted to make sure we had something on the books that would require them to do it. So the plan, as I understand it, is the staff is going to come up with something, and it's going to be introduced either into the standards manual or the development code or somewhere. And that's going to happen in a couple weeks in the April meeting. At least that's the plan. So that was communicated to the developer. We had a frank discussion with their lawyer who said, we want two connections. That's going to happen. My communication to them kind of distilled what you all told me, which was this isn't about traffic counts. This is about safety. And so it wouldn't matter what a traffic report said and the number of vehicles coming out. We're going to write the ordinance that says it's about safety. So So that's at least where that's headed. That's positive. The city's going to deal with that. The the negative of the whole situation is it's still coming out that this connection is going to be contingent on using a flow serve, using across flow serve. And the developer has entered into the negotiation with us now. They submitted terms today that haven't been reviewed, but basically says they understand our concerns and they're willing to do certain things. And I don't know what they are yet because again, we haven't reviewed what they submitted today. But the issue we're going to have as the city is the connection can only be made if there's the connection through FlowServe. And the city may need to adjust its expectations. Um, we were under the expectation that FlowServe would just give us the easement for the improvements, as I talked about before. And we don't know a lot about what's going on with that right now. But the expectation might be that's quite a bit of land for an industrial property that a for-profit company has. They may say, we want you to buy it, or we're not going to sell it at all. And the town will have to decide, is this something that you want to start to condemn? So I think our expectations have to be adjusted. And I'm not really sure how that's going to work out with the requirements from the developer in Mountain Brook. But if you again look at this as far as timing goes, this doesn't have to be decided tomorrow as long as everybody knows what they need to do. We still have years to discuss things with FlowServe and years to work it out with the developer before that amount of traffic would have to come in those ways. So a much less succinct report, but I think our discussions last month really did the trick in at least highlighting the concerns and your opinions about what you would or would not approve. So some progress.
So,
Comments?
assuming that we're going to go forward with the ordinance to require a second point of access, it kind of has always struck me a little strange that the city was in the middle of this, except that somewhere along the line somebody had made a deal with someone at some prior version of flow service management that they would agree that we would do this. I mean, frankly, it's really not our bailiwick to do this, to find this right away for this developer. This is the developer's problem, not ours.
That's certainly the way that it could be looked at from ours if you're going to have the requirement for 2 exits. The developer, of course, has stated that you want this road for a bypass, and therefore that's why you're involved. We are going to actually have to figure out how we do this on a timing method, because there is no way a developer is going to put the road in first. And so we don't want to do the old trust me. So we want to make sure that we have something figured out. And we don't know what that is yet because we don't have enough details to even plan. So
In regards to the second entrance, I don't want to see them put them side by side. I think it needs to be a certain width between them. I mean, I don't know what the magic number is, or it's 200 foot or what it is, but if you have an accident at the entrance, you can't have another one 5 foot down the road. And if you don't state that in your ordinance, I know what they're going to do.
I agree with you. If we look at Carroll Vista probably being the only one that has 2 entrances on the same road, right, basically. So if there is an accident in one area, you can still go the other way, the long way around. The other recent developments, Meets Crossing can come out on the other road, Stumptown Road for the other. So a lot of places have excellent ones. And what we have to kind of do is not only look at what we're talking about for here, but as you're saying, Sewells, are spooling up at least. And this will eventually become an issue with them.
Right.
That is one road hitting Harney good enough, or is 2 roads hitting Harney okay as long as they are some distance apart? That's what we're going to be focused with. when you look at the concept, the Sewell issue and the Mountain Brook issue are kind of similar. Might not be in distances, but you basically have a property that wants to develop that can't get to the other state highway because there's private property in the middle. And then that's where you're going to have this discussion of whose responsibility is it, or is it a requirement, or do they just throw their hands up saying, well, we can't do it, we can't connect. So that's the issue that will come back with back to Councilman Tillman's issue, is that if it is a developer's responsibility to acquire the right of way, then the adjoining property owner could simply say no for no reason, no money or anything, which is where the government has to step in and say, well, if we want it that bad, are you willing to use the power of condemnation? And we haven't done that since I've been here. The last time I think it's been done in the county was over like a golf course for a well back in Hampstead. So it's not done often because it's expensive and it has lots of negative connotations to property owners.
Yeah, you don't really have, given everything with the MPRP, you don't want to be saying the words eminent domain out loud. But, you know, and it's not to say that we shouldn't be part of some kind of negotiation, but it really shouldn't, you know, maybe we can be helpful in some way, but it shouldn't be incumbent upon the city to make this happen. You know, again, we're not the ones making millions of dollars from building the houses, so.
Yeah, I have another client town that has a similar situation. It's on a smaller scale where they had an agreement that the developer had to build a railroad crossing and a road to connect to another city road. And the developer said, sure, because it's several years from now and several phases from now, and I can build and won't be a problem, until we get to the point where we're at present day and now it's close to doing it. And the developer is saying, I've done everything I can. Isn't that enough? And the town has got to make the decision to say, well, no, that's not enough, and maybe you won't be able to build your houses. But the issue is the town has to stand fast. And right now, we're in a position where we can write the ordinances to give the town that authority. But this also seems like a little rush. You know, we want to get these things done because we want to get approvals and we want to get things going through. And so are we not thinking things through? You know, that may or may not be the case, but I wanted you to be aware of that because it needs to happen in the near future if we want to make sure we protect the bypass route. And maybe that's the way we should be looking at it, is even if you can't do the flow serve piece, don't you want to protect the route through Mountain Brook? And we need to make sure that's protected.
Oh, yeah, and you can say that there is a compelling city interest in protecting the route for the piece across flow serve, but you know, it still doesn't, to me, make it incumbent upon the city to become responsible for acquiring that right away for them.
And it's not inexpensive. I mean, when you think about, when we start talking about condemnation, the fight is not over taking the land. That happens. It's how much do you pay for the land to a property owner. And so we're trying to figure out internally what would that price look like? Does it have 6 numbers in the price, 7 numbers? I mean, it becomes to the point where if it's 7 or 8 numbers, you may say, well, it's not going to happen unless we do something cooperatively.
If not,
Yeah,
let's,
well, can we make a motion that we advise them that we'd like to see a distance in there for the second road? I'm just afraid that we're gonna have them too close.
no, plans that come before us, we'll have that opportunity when the plan comes before us.
Yeah, but if we're gonna put the ordinance in and it doesn't state that, then I think we'll have another legal problem.
That's, yeah,
I think, you know,
Chris, or Jim had a comment.
yeah, that is a good point, and one that we have been considering. You know, we've reached out to Carroll County. They tend to require a second entrance for more than 25 dwelling units, which is, you know, half of what we've historically allowed. But in their comments, now they are not supported by specifics in an ordinance that we're trying to do. But they've advised on like distance between those intersections, you know, those points of ingress, egress, meeting
have a
certain
distance on
thresholds.
there, and they
So
do.
it's not in their code,
Oh,
but
okay.
the fire protection engineer that reviews them said he has, you know, standards he likes to see, and he's shared those. And we're also reaching out to other municipalities to see if other municipalities have something similar in their codes or specification manuals. So we're hoping not to, you know, reinvent the wheel if we can, you know.
But if you're not the leader, you always have the same view, remember that.
That's true, that's true. But, you know, if we can take something someone else has done and make it work for Taneytown.
Yes.
But yes, that having some minimum distance between points of access is certainly something we thought about and something State Highway is going to look at in a lot of these cases, you know, where it does where a project does access onto a state road.
Now, that, he just said what I was going to suggest, that, you know, I'm sure that the staff was already on this because,
Okay.
you know, that's part of the part of the thing. It's, something I was going to say, now I can't remember what it was.
We'll come back to it.
We'll come back to it, if I remember.
Jay, you have anything else for us?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you.
Chris, got a member? Come up to you yet?
Not yet, I'll let you know.
All right. Okay, county update. Tiffany?
For water sewer, the spring amendments are now being processed, and the city of Taneytown is part of that. The housing study has wrapped up, but we are getting into the master plan workshops or work groups that will be forming. And so one of the work groups will be the housing study work group, looking into the recommendations that are in the housing study and how can we really make those work? How are they going to be feasible, and what would they look like? So if any municipality is interested in being part of that work group, it'll be like 6 weeks or 6 meetings over maybe 12 weeks, 1 night a week. And please let me know. And then there'll also be an ag work group, agricultural work group, and an EDLU in the Economic Development and Land Use Study work group also. That'll be very similar to the housing work group. And so that's what we're moving on to for the master plan next, while we're going through the process as well, is we finished the open houses and we're moving on to the work groups. And now on the 15th, we'll be presenting what came out of the open houses, all the feedback that we received to the Planning Commission, the County Planning Commission, and then the annual report. Thank you for submitting your data and your certified letter, and we'll just be processing that, and we'll get you a draft copy for review by May.
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah.
The county has a sign up out on Kraus Mill Road for public hearing Wednesday night. Do you know anything about that?
I-
For VAPCO?
For Evapco?
Yes.
I do, for Wednesday night?
Wednesday night.
Let me check the agenda, and then I will let you know.
Would that be for the storage lot that they were talking about?
Yeah, I
That
thought
would be
that
my
was dropped.
assumption.
That was like a year ago, wasn't it? Is that back open again, or? That was a year ago, the first public meeting.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's still ongoing.
Okay, okay.
I can check. It would just take me a couple minutes to get in there. Yeah. Fast can I work my phone?
While Tiffany is verifying that, do you want to go on with the comp plan commentary or discussion?
And yes,
Okay.
it is for the Evapco contractor storage yard, and there is a report online regarding that. So it'll be that's the name of the site plan, S240009, Evapco contractor contractor storage yard, east side of Crossmill Road, west of Allendale Lane. A case it involved for the conditional use of the contractor's equipment storage yard. The plan is before the Planning and Zoning Commission per Chapter 155 of the Code for review of a concept site plan. No action is required. But the Planning Commission may consider delegating approval of the final site plan to the Planning Commission Chair.
Okay, I thought it was approved a year ago, that's all. Okay.
Maybe that was the BZA case, perhaps?
Jim?
I was going to leave it up to you guys, just if there was anybody, if you had any comments on the recent comp plan meeting. That's just our next agenda item.
I apologize for missing that meeting. I was in a conference and got tied up and couldn't get away.
I don't, no comments. I mean, it's a good discussion for, I think.
I think we tried to cover a lot of ground in that period of time.
I think we're making progress. I guess I'm curious as to how we take some of the, to make actionable goals and stuff like that. I'm curious how that we're going to come out with that, so.
We didn't get a minutes yet for that meeting.
Correct.
So I suspect that we will end up developing recommendations chapter by chapter that will be kind of the implementation strategies or the, the steps that we can take to reach the goals. But I'm probably jumping ahead, so I don't want to speak for Arrow if they may have different ideas. And honestly, I think we talked about this many months ago at the kickoff of the process, but we've been drilling down on such so much on individual little items since then that I think we all could probably use a little refresher on the overall structure.
Yep, that would be good. Keep everybody focused.
You haven't heard any feedback or anything about the folks meeting with the key personnel yet, have you?
No, I haven't.
I want to keep pushing that
Yeah,
off.
we've been pushing it off, and that was the only, I had sent an email to Daryl when I realized I wasn't going to be able to make be online for the meeting last week, and I sent a note to Daryl that we really do need to push that, because we're a long way into this process, and we still have not done those key person interviews.
Planning?
We can certainly reach out to Arrow and just emphasize, we really want to see some progress on that. So.
I mean, is there anything that we as the commission can do? I know early on we volunteered to do some of those interviews. If that's what it will take to move this forward, tell us what we can do.
We ended up, they can do it virtually now, right?
Right.
But I have second thoughts about that, but I think the purpose, we need to get it completed somehow.
I think that will help it
I see
get
their
done more
point.
quickly.
If they're a mile on the other side of Philadelphia, to come down here and meet, it's a lot of travel time.
A lot of travel for
But they
them.
knew that
And a
when
lot
they
of
took the bid
costs.
too.
But at the end of the meeting, we said virtually was okay, right? That's the way we ended up, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Anything else for old business? Mine. Jim, when the town annexed the Sewell property, was that for an overlay to be a community village,
We have an option. The annexation agreement said that and I'm not going to try to quote it here, but basically said that the city would be open to considering designation of the community village overlay. They did present to mayor and council just this month with their community village application. Ta-da.
Yeah.
So that was submitted, late January, distributed to the council members in February. We gave them, a little over a month to look it over before the developer and came to present the application. And so really, right now, it's on the mayor and council's plate as to whether, you know, their thoughts on the matter. So last month, or this month rather, was just hearing the information in addition to what was presented, you know, to the council members, but no decision at this point.
Do you
So
have
we
an
may.
opportunity for comments on that before that happens?
With elections coming up, a lot of people could change up there anyway. I think it'd be more important that we look at it.
So I don't know what, at this point, I don't have a hard schedule for the mayor and council as to when they want to come to a decision on the designation. I think there needs to be some discussion at the council level, really, before we move it one way or the other. And that really didn't, you know, the information was presented, there might have been a couple questions, but there wasn't really much in the way of discussion because it was a lot of information coming at them. So I suspect we'll probably have some discussion in April, and, you know, that's going to steer us in whatever direction.
Originally, I didn't have an issue when I thought it was going to be age-related. But if it's not going to be age-related, I'd like to see it go back to a conventional development. The rest of us can think on those thoughts, and
I think maybe Chris can advocate that the planning commission gets a chance to look at it before they decide anything.
Oh, absolutely. I would definitely advocate for that at council, that it comes back through here. I'm not opposed to the overlay per se. I'm not pleased with the plan that they presented. But as far as a concept, the overlay is not, to me, is not a bad idea if you're going to implement it properly. But if you're going to, you know, be imaginationless when you decide what it's going to look like, then, you know, then you're just stuffing houses into a space and not creating a community village. So you're just using the overlay to try to increase the number of houses, and I'm not in favor of that. You're gonna create a village, create a village.
appreciate it when the opportunity comes, that you bring it, that it's the point of the commission, not.
Stand with the
not
commission
just-
on that.
Not just you, it's the commission.
I mean, when it was presented to you, you asked some great questions and you had some good discussion, but no disrespect, but it looked to me like some other people weren't even paying attention. And that's where my problem is.
Well, I think that is due to the lame duck nature of the current council.
Yes, yes.
New business. Okay, looks like our next meeting would be April the 28th. I guess the week before that is our comp plan meeting. Forget what the date is, but 7 days before that probably. Second, 23rd, somewhere.
22nd.
Good with that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
We adjourn.
Chris made the motion,
Second.
Brown seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Carried. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.